so many things that happen in life or could happen in life that could cause us to not want to show up. Meaning you can get sick, you could have a catastrophe hit, you could just be having a down day, whatever it is. But there are always so many things and reasons that could cause us to not to want to show up. But today I want to have a little conversation with you to talk about some of the things that I feel like you should be doing or you could do when you don't feel like showing up. So I'm Keenya Kelly, and here on this channel, I'm always teaching you about a business, marketing your business, and then having a balanced life in the process. And so because of that, as an entrepreneur, you are involved in your entrepreneurship journey, meaning that you are the one that shows up. You're the one that has to, if you're a coach or consultant, you have to be the face of things. You have to show up for your clients. You have to basically do all these different things or whatever when it comes to your business. And so whatever business you have, at some point in time, you're going to have to be the one that shows up. But life can hit us in a way sometimes or oftentimes where we're like, I just don't feel like doing that. I don't want to do that. And I completely understand and I can appreciate it. But today we're talking about how to show up even when you don't want to. So at the time, as I am recording this episode, I have COVID. Yes, I have COVID. I got it. I was traveling for a conference when I went to Puerto Rico, and I think I got it in one of those places, whether it was here in San Diego or in Charlotte or in ATL or in Puerto Rico at the conference, somewhere I got COVID. And so the last couple of days have been pretty much a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 10. Okay, just terrible. And even right now, as I am filming this, my nose is burning just a little bit. I turned on the AC because I feel like I have a slight fever, not a whole lot, but just a slight fever. And I just don't feel 100% myself. Okay, but here's the thing. I said to myself yesterday, do I have it to show up? No, I do not. Yesterday felt like I had somebody punch me in the chest 1,000 times, like a 500-pound man. So I could not show up on video, recording this video today. Right. But also yesterday I didn't feel like I needed to sleep all day. And so instead of me sitting and watching TV all day, I said, okay, what is it that I can do? What do I feel like I can do? And so I wrote a couple of emails. I checked a couple things and chatted with my team just a little bit. The day before, I didn't have a whole lot to give because that's like, the height of COVID is like, the worst. And so I really just did not have it. But today I said I have some of it, right? And so I had the option of not doing anything and just saying, hey, we're going to get instead of Friday's episode going out, it's going to be delayed because I'm sick, whatever. Or I'm like, I could either say, hey, I can watch another day of TV, or I could spend 10 or 15 minutes, recording this episode. And the thing about it is that this video isn't just about having an episode that goes out to you to encourage or inspire or to motivate. It is because one of the things that I decided a very long time ago was that I was going to show up. Okay? Was that I was going to show up. That I was going to be consistent. That even when things are not perfect, even when I don't exactly know what I'm doing, have all the answers or whatever it is, or have the most perfect circumstances, that I was going to show up. Because I know that it's consistency that wins in everything. Okay? It is consistency that wins in everything. And so when I thought about this episode, I was like, this one's right on time because I'm recording it right, while I'm having COVID, is I want to say this to you. I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know where you are in your entrepreneurship journey, but I guarantee you that at some point in time, either now, in the future, or in the past, you're going to hit this crossroad where you can either stop, you can pause, or you can keep going. Okay? Where you can stop, you can pause, or you can keep going, okay? And whichever one you choose, I feel like is dependent upon one, what are the circumstances, right? But two, what are the decisions that you have made? So today, I made the decision that I am going to show up because in this circumstance, I actually can show up. It's not easy to show up, but I can show up. When I found out that my ex-husband was being unfaithful, I could not show up. I was an emotional basket case. I could not show up in that way. So what I had to do was I had to pause, because I was just like, I don't have me to offer to the world. I've got to go get a job to take care of my bills. And then I just can't be dealing with people right now. People that know me, know anything about me. I was like, I just can't do that right now, because it was going to be too hard for me to deal with my present circumstance and with people and trying to work and things of that nature. But right now, I don't feel that way, because I'm teaching you, and all I'm doing is dealing with like what feels like a cold, like a flu-like cold or whatever that's happening like right now or whatever. But like, I made a decision back then about when my ex-husband was cheating, because I had to say to myself, is this me trying to quit? Is this me, like, what is actually happening here with me? And in that instance, what was happening with me was like, my whole life had just blown up in front of my face, in front of my eyes. And I was completely just lost, just completely lost. And so because I was so lost, I was like, I got to focus on one thing at a time. And the one thing that I had to focus on was, I got to make sure I got a place to live. Right? So when we were talking about showing up, like the way that I needed to show up in my life was, I needed to get a job. I needed to find a place to live. That was number one. Everything else, it was like I couldn't focus on anything else, right? And so then once I got myself a job and got my place, a new place to live, then I was like, okay, like now I got to deal with my mental and emotional state. And so at that time is when I said, okay, well, we're going to go and find us a therapist, right? It didn't have anything to do with anybody else or what was going on with him. It was like, I'm going crazy in my mind. I got to get a therapist pretty soon afterwards. And so then I started down that journey. And so while I was working and then started down the therapist journey, then I was just working on that. I still was not concerning myself with the business that I had. I put that thing down. I had my last show that I used to have, a hair show. And I was like, I'm putting this down until, because I had to deal with myself, And then I think it was a year, 2 years later, the entrepreneurial in me was still in me. And so I wanted to start another business, in which I did, because, a job is a job. But, once you've been an entrepreneur, there's a part of you that's just like, I can't work for nobody else. Once you've been doing it for a long time, you know what I mean? And so then I started another business, and then so on and so on and so on. But at that time, I could not show up because I didn't have it to show up. But in your instance, I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know where you are in your business. But what it is important to know, if you're saying how to show up when I don't want to, you got to ask yourself, well, why don't you want to show up? What are the circumstances that are hindering you from showing up? Because yes, you may not want to, but are there circumstances that are hindering you, right? But also, if you actually do show up, what is the potential that could happen for you? If you actually showed up, what is the potential of that could happen for you? Does that make sense? I'll give you another example. So last week I was invited to speak at a conference in Puerto Rico. I was very new to their community, new to the owner, new everybody, right? And so when I got there, I had the expectation that nobody's going to know that I exist, right? And nobody did. Well, no, let me stop. 2 people did, right? And no matter what, it didn't matter, right? But I went there with the expectation that nobody knows that I exist. I also went with the expectation that because of that, that could mean that nobody comes to my session, because my session was not the only one happening during its time. There were multiple people having sessions during my time, people who had a much bigger community. Just not new to the community. I was the new one. I was a speaker and the new person to the community, right? And so I was just like, well, I don't know how many people are going to show up. It could be 3, it could be 30. I don't know. But I told myself that no matter how many people show up in that room, I am going to act as if like the president of Entrepreneur Magazine is there, right? And I've told myself that every time I do a speaking event, because I don't, unless it's my event, I don't know how many folks are going to show up to see me. You know what I mean? And my session. And I don't mean see me as in come see me. No, I mean in terms of like you're a speaker. You want to make sure people are in your room, you know? And so I'm backstage and I'm asking the lady who's like helping me. And I'm like, is there anybody in the room? And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, how many people you think is in there? She goes, about 30. And I was like, okay, maybe 50. And I said, okay, that's great. Right. And I was like, just happy about the 50 that would show up to my session. You know what I mean? And so they call my name. I come back from backstage and I just do what it is that I'm doing. And I showed up like me, authentically, as if, again, the president of Entrepreneur Magazine was in the room. They weren't, but I'm just saying that's how I showed up that day in the room. And so I just did what I did and did what I did or what have you. Listen, I didn't think much of it. I enjoyed everybody afterwards, taking pictures, all the things. It was so much fun, all the stuff. But it wasn't until like afterwards, we were like back in the main hall, we were dancing, and this woman comes up to me and she goes, oh my God, I love you. You're always on my For You page on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm so good to meet you. And she goes, yeah, and I'm Rachel's sister. And I was like, oh, and Rachel Rogers is the owner of the company, the event I spoke at. And I'm like, well, hey, that's amazing. That's so good to meet you. And she was like, and I was in your session. And I was just like, oh, shoot. She was like, yeah, and it was so amazing. I'm going to tell the whole team about you, the whole team about your session, blah, 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 blah. And I'm the head of marketing. And I was sitting there looking at her like, I'm sure I probably turned white even though I'm super brown. But I was like, it was one of those moments where it was like, hey, you don't know who is in the room. You don't know what happens when you choose to show up. You know, last year I spoke at Social Media Marketing World and I did this, what I do all the time. And when the conference was over with, I got an email from Go High Level and they said, we want to have you come and speak at our conference. We saw you at Social Media Marketing World. And I was like, really? Wow, that's amazing. You know, because my thing is, you just show up. If you have the possibility, the ability, the energy, the right circumstances to show up, then you just do just that. So for you, because today's video is about how do you show up? Well, you've got to ask yourself, one, do you have the right circumstance where you actually can show up? You just may not be choosing to. And then the second thing is, what's the goal, right? So if you know that you want to lose weight, right? You want to be healthy and all that, then showing up and exercising should be something that is not easy, but it is something that you should do because you're saying, here's what I want to have happen. And in order for that to happen, you've got to show up in a certain way, right? It's like me, I want to be healthy. And so one of the ways that I show up for myself health-wise is every single morning I get dressed and I pull out my drawer in my bathroom and there's like 20 bottles in there, right? And all of them are vitamins and supplements that my naturopathic doctor said you should take. And so every day I put them into 3 different piles. Here's my nighttime pile, here's my morning pile, and here's my my midday pile. Right? And I know it sounds like an old person, but it's like, it's not about that. It's about having a healthy life. And I was like, wasn't something that I was used to doing 2 years ago. But I was like, in order for this to happen, I've got to create this new habit to make that happen. So every morning I make these little piles, right? Then another thing that I do is before bed, I drink my water with my nighttime pills. And then I fill up my water bottle, put it back in the refrigerator for the next day to be able to drink it the next day, right? But also I got this new thing. Because I'm like perimenopausal, menopausal, all that. I was like, okay, what is collagen? Why do some of my friends drink collagen? And I was like, oh, it's for elasticity and da-da-da-da. Great. Post it on social media. What y'all taking? Order what they're taking. And so now every single morning before I start work, I get a glass of orange juice, put the collagen in there, so gross, drink it, and then that's it for the day. And I'm like, I'm going. So, but why am I saying all this? Because I want to live a healthier life. So here's some things that I'm doing to show up. I want to have a successful career at what it is that I do as a business owner. So I got to show up a certain type of way, right? And then today, like I said, I have COVID and I'm still here showing up, recording this video. Why? Because I am a business owner. I am someone who encourages and inspires people to do things that they normally may not have done if I hadn't been the one to tell them. And so here I am telling you this right now. Now, listen, I'm on the other side of COVID. Remember that. So yesterday I couldn't have done this. Day before that, I couldn't have done this. Today, I have the ability. It's only hurting me right up in here, right? And so I'm doing this, showing you that this is what it's like to show up. Okay. And so if you want to start showing up, you got to decide, can you show up? And then what is your reason for doing so? Okay. So I want to know, if you enjoyed this video, tell me what you most enjoyed about this. I have videos that come out on this channel every single Monday, Thursday, and Friday here on YouTube. So make sure you hit like and subscribe to the video and then subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.